The cop is there to make an arrest. He's not there to figure out what's going on so everybody can get home safely. Well, so there's a specific thing called auditing when it refers to police. It's when citizens go out and basically get themselves into police interactions so that they can exercise their rights and ensure that the police are performing their duties correctly.
Interesting.
So it's like this whole subgroup of people. There's a lot of overlap with the sovereign citizen movement. Don't know why that is.
I don't know if that's a good idea with your record to be sort of playing with fire like that, Tony.
No, I wouldn't. I enjoy watching videos of other people doing it.
Okay.
But anyways, that DUI guy, his videos are great. But he also does some live streams where he just kind of gets in like really talking about his philosophy of what he sees wrong with the judicial system. He kind of tries to hide it, but he has a deep disdain for police. At least it seems like that to me. I mean, he just outright says it several times.
He says it openly in a couple of these. He did some sort of ABC News type interviews. He says these guys are not your friends.
They're not there to help you. That's not what they're paid to do. They're not out here trying to make you safe. They're revenue collectors.
Collecting evidence, yeah.
And revenue. I mean, that's another big one.
We've mentioned before, but I think it bears repeating that me and you both sort of feel like it takes a unique sort of something unique about an individual that they would want to go into this field of work.
There's a couple kinds for sure. There's the people that I think have this starry-eyed naivete where they think they believe the crap about I'm going to go out there and really do good for my community. And then there's the closet sadists that are control freaks that love to have that ability to lord over people and walk around with a gun and be the big guy. And they've, let's just be honest, they've got small dicks and they're just trying to make up for it. They don't have the money to buy a Corvette like me, so they get a badge and a gun.
We'll get into some of these cases. These are interesting to me because we grew up in this area, and I've seen some of these judges. I love watching this stuff, man. It's like, man, I wish my lawyer was this good back in the day. Shit.
Yeah. Or just have the money to get a lawyer. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Officer, simply by virtue of the fact that this was the second time you were at that location, as you quickly learned, as you just said, you would like to tell these ladies and gentlemen of the jury that a second time a warning to keep quiet was issued?
Well, it was Officer Sullivan's call. I was there for her backup. And unless I see something I need to intervene on, I let the officer make their decisions on what they want to do. Officer Sullivan asked them that they needed to keep it down. This was the second time or not her, but the second time the police had been out there. And the resident came out and agreed that that's what he was going to do, and he started telling people to leave.
And he started saying, get out, get out, get out.
Words to that effect, yes.
When you saw Mr. Symington get in his car, or according to, I believe you said you did not see it specifically, but you saw his car leave, you followed it.
I saw a car leave, and I saw him driving it.
You saw Mr. Symington behind the wheel of a car?
Yes.
And you followed it?
Yes.
Thank you.
So there were two officers involved in this. We're going to hear testimony from the other officer on the scene, this woman here.
Yeah. Just goes to show this guy's he's not worried about public safety, about getting a drunk person off the street. He's worried about getting an arrest.
And when you arrived, you testified that somebody came out.
Yes.
And they said that they're the resident who lives at that location.
Yes, sir.
And you said to them, what? I'm sorry.
Now notice how well their testimonies match, these two officers involved in this. Like almost identical word for word. They say the exact same thing here.
I don't think you actually said that. What was the conversation like?
Verbatim, I don't remember verbatim the words.
The gist.
But when they opened up the door, I asked for the resident of the home. He came out. We spoke in the hallway. I explained to him, hey, you have got to have your guests calm down, quiet down, and then I explained to him about the city ordinance, referenced the noise complaints, And he went back inside, and he told his friends they needed to go.
After you have spoken with this individual, do you remember their name?
No, sir, I don't.
What did they do?
Did they do? Mm-hmm. They went back into their residence and spoke to the people that were in their residence.
And they told everybody to leave?
No, not everybody, but he said, I'm over this, words to that effect, need y'all to go. It's not worth me getting in trouble for.
You don't recall anyone saying everybody out?
Not those exact words, no.
What exact words were they?
I don't remember.
Okay. You said that on direct examination, you don't exactly remember seeing Mr. Symington at that time, correct?
Correct, sir.
So you only learn later what he looks like?
I remember his face walking by me as he exited, but I didn't know who he was at the time, no.
And you don't remember him saying, can I stay here? I would like to stay here.
No, sir. At no point in time did I hear him say that.
So there's two types of parties, right? There's the type of party where when the police shows up, the party's over, right? Or there's another type of party where the party goes on, right? But at no point does the second time the cops show up, then they decide to leave. These officers clearly told these people to leave and then started busting them as they left for drinking and driving.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's standard protocol.
How is that legal?
It's a racket. It's a way to. It's what the police are out there to do. They're out there to, saying earlier, to get arrests and to generate revenue for the county, and that's exactly how you do it. You put people in positions as best you can to where you can get an arrest. They're not concerned about the safety of the community. They're not concerned about making sure that the people there are safe, making sure that the people out on the street are safe.
Right.
They want to get arrest, and they want to put you in a position where they can arrest you or at least cite you for something, so you have to go into court and pay a ticket.
Well, not just that, but the DUI guy's client in this particular trial, in this case, they could have charged him with public intoxication on his way to the vehicle. He walked right past them. They suspected he was drunk. They let him get into the car and drive down the road. Right?
Yeah.
They should be in trouble for that shit. They could have killed somebody with their
flagrant disregard for public safety. It's a weird, sick. It's odd that you see these sorts of things happen. It's odd for me, at least, to see these sorts of things happening outside of the private sphere. This was a private police force. Some weird dystopian future that we're like 2 years away from, probably. That would make sense that they're doing these sorts of things. But it is happening. I mean, they are doing this to collect revenue. They are doing it, well, I guess there is an incentive for themselves to have a higher arrest rate, so that they can get promoted, even though that's not supposed to happen, but it obviously does happen. Something the DUI guy talks about and other things, like they are incentivized by the prosecutor. I mean, the prosecutor wants them to bring in people. The prosecutor wants there to be a crime problem so that he's needed. And the prosecutor wants to have a very high conviction rate because apparently that's important when they
promoted to judge or
Hey, I had a 98%. I had a 98% conviction rate. Where 98, the cops are so smart and so well trained that 98% of the people that they arrest are guilty people. Like they're that on the mark. Of course not.
You're right. It's not about the truth. It's about winning, right?
Yeah, it's about winning. It's about getting in here and we'll charge them with all sorts of crap. They'll plead to a couple things, and I get my conviction rate up. We generate some revenue for the county, and who cares if these people lose their jobs or lose their license? Get caught up in this endless cycle of probation and attorney's fees and court fees and all that crap. It's this weird, sick cycle that these monsters just drag people into, and it preys exclusively on the poor.
This is why police should be non-voluntarily selected from the community, and they should be rotated over a certain period of time, right? Anybody in that position of authority is going to get corrupt over time. Get them out of there. 2 years. You do your 2 years after you graduate high school, and then you move on.
It's an interesting idea. I think anything would work better than the system we have, for sure.
Well, I wanted to give people some tools to help them in case they get pulled over for these stops, because these DUI stops are not as black and white as we sort of thought they were. First, there's an order of operations for what the police do, right? They pull you over. That's a traffic stop. And then they have to they have to have some sort of reasonable suspicion to think that you've been drinking. So they'll typically ask you, have you had anything to drink tonight? And if you say yes, automatically you're now in a DUI investigation.
Reasonable suspicion it's almost a given. If they want to say they have it, they can have it, and it's something you're just not going to fight it in court. So.
They just say they smelled alcohol, and that's reasonable suspicion. Then they yank you out of the car, and they do the field sobriety tests.
Incidentally, though, this is a lot of lawyers suggest when an officer approaches, only just crack the window. You don't have to roll the window all the way down. Crack the window, keep your head, in an upright position in your chair. It minimizes the ability for them to be able to say they smelled alcohol. If they're still going to say it if they want to, but you have a lot more of an argument later on down the line to argue that they did not have reasonable suspicion to search you if you've only cracked your window by an inch and you slide your identification out through that little crack. So, yeah, I've watched a lot of lawyers. This is what they suggested.
An eighth of an inch, hell, screw that. An eighth of an inch. That card will fit through there, yeah.
And you don't stick your mouth up there to them, because that gives them an opportunity to smell alcohol or smell weed, or your eyes are glassy or anything like that.
So you get pulled over. They develop reasonable suspicion somehow. So they yank you out of the car. They do the field sobriety tests, and there are 3 tests they do. The first is the horizontal gaze nystagmus, follow my finger test. They will do this to check if your eye is darting or if it's a smooth tracking. The smooth tracking is what you want. Then they do the walk and turn, and you walk 9 steps heel to toe, turn around, do it again, and you count out loud. And the last test is the one-leg stand, and there is no time parameter on this, but the goal is to stand on one leg while you're counting, and the officer will tell you when to stop. And you need to not use your arms for balance. That's what they're looking for, right? They're looking for clues on these.
Oh, I think I'm getting a clue.
When they get enough clues, then you fail, and that's probable cause for arrest.
And it's also important to point out that the clues are very subjective, and they are the only ones that are going to be able to ascertain whether or not you exhibited those clues. So, on the eye movement test, like what counts as not smoothly following? Is a camera looking at your eyes? Is this an objective measure? Okay, well, it needs to move at X rate for so many degrees. No, this is all at their discretion. And as we've talked about, I'm sure as we're going to go into, they have a purpose. They want to find something to get you with.
That's a good point. Yeah, even with the body cam, if they do have it on, it's not going to show your pupil motion. They can just make that up if they want to. Yeah,
you're standing on one leg. I don't have balance for nothing. If you sway a little bit, is that that gives them reasonable suspicion. Somebody like me that has a bad leg, well, anything they can find anything in any of those tests to say that you failed them.
The officer just offered to give you field sobriety tests. If you say, officer, I refuse to do field sobriety tests, again, it's a double-edged sword, because one, you're now raising his suspicion even more, because he's used to people complying. If you're not compliant, to him that raises red flags per his training. However, once again, statutorily, the statutes don't even mention field sobriety tests whatsoever. Yes, it's evidence that's admissible in court. That's the easy part. But if you refuse to do them, there's no evidence, there's nothing to admit, there are no consequences, no repercussions, nothing. So you
could just tell them no. Just say, no, I'm not going to do the field sobriety tests. And then they don't have any evidence to use against you in court. There's no legal repercussions for you telling them no. Now they're going to get suspicious as hell, right?
Get suspicious, buddy.
I'll give my final verdict at the end here, but the DUI guy says that you can and should refuse to take these tests. There's no benefit to doing so. So after the field sobriety test, they do the breathalyzer, which is there's 2 different types of breathalyzers. This one is the PBT breathalyzer it's like a portable one that the cop has.
The first thing, and sometimes they switch it around. The first thing usually is to get a what's called a PBT. It's a preliminary, not portable, even though they are portable. They're called preliminary breath tests, and he will bring it out of his belt and ask you to blow. Now, two things with that. If you really think that you're going to be under that .08, I would not recommend it. I would not, because those things are very, very not accurate. They're not very accurate at all. And sometimes even just because they test your breath on a molecular level, on a very, very, like tiny, tiny particles. All you need is a couple of particles to go through, and that will test maybe above what you actually are. But you will never know, and he will never care. So I always recommend not blowing unless you really have not had anything to drink whatsoever. But by virtue of refusing the PBT, he cannot do anything legally. Now, he may still, that may raise a suspicion because he's already biased. Again, you're already in that DUI stop zone. But because there's no legal ramification for you refusing the PBT, basically. It's in the statute. The PBT number is not admitted. You can blow a .3 on a PBT. That number cannot come in court.
So yeah, not admissible. Just tell them no. Don't blow in the damn thing.
Yeah,
it's a situation where they allow you to provide them with evidence to convict you with. And under the Fifth Amendment, you don't have to do that. You don't have to provide evidence to incriminate yourself.
Yeah, and I believe this is also to be covered under the Fourth Amendment. Like, this is unreasonable. They can't force you to do it. So under the Fifth Amendment, you don't have to incriminate yourself. Under the Fourth Amendment, you're not. They have no right to seize your. That's correct. I might be
your breath.
Up. Your breath. They can't seize my spit.
Now, if you blow a .08 or above, that is probable cause. Now, probable cause is what they need to arrest you. So 4 or more clues on the field sobriety tests or a .08 on the portable breathalyzer is probable cause for arrest. You can refuse all the tests, refuse everything, but and there's no legal repercussions according to DUI guy here, but you'll probably get arrested 100% of the time, he says. Mm-hmm. So you're trading potential incriminating evidence for a guaranteed day in court. You're definitely going to go to court. You're going to get arrested. You're going to go to court. But, once you're in that DUI stop zone, like he's talking about, reasonable suspicion, you're going to get arrested anyway, probably. If you've had anything to drink, you're going to be arrested anyway.
Yeah, that's the point. And, in that spot, you're going to be arrested. So try to
You're not going to talk your way out of it.
He is there. The cop is there to make an arrest. He's not there to figure out what's going on so everybody can get home safely. It's just, I guess, knowing your rights, sticking with them, and just accepting the fact that you're not talking yourself out of it. You're going to go to jail, and that's not the worst thing. You'll get out in the morning, most likely, and get a lawyer. Call DUI guy.
There you go. If you can afford him, hell.
If you can afford him, he's probably charging a premium these days.
I guarantee it. So once you get to jail, however, there's a 20-minute waiting period where they're supposed to observe you, and then you do the jail breathalyzer. This is the real breathalyzer, the one that is admissible in court. Now, they make you sign a form, and this breathalyzer is more accurate, obviously, and you can also refuse this under the Fifth Amendment. You can refuse it's called the Intoxilyzer. Can refuse to take this. And even though it is, in fact, protected to refuse it under the Fifth Amendment, they have basically created this loophole where they take your license now. So if you do refuse it, they take your license for
DUI 12 or 18 months?
12 to 18 months for a second, for a DUI second. For a DUI first is 30 days to 90 days or something like that, I think. And then it goes up from there. So, and a fourth is a felony in Kentucky. So if you've been drinking but you're not sure if you're over, just refuse everything until you get to the jail. And if you think there's a chance that you're going to pass the Intoxilyzer, then I would not refuse the Intoxilyzer. Hopefully your body is metabolized to the alcohol some at that point,
Yeah.
What do you
then,
think? They're going to take your license if you refuse, but if you know you're going to fail the thing.
If you suspect you're going to fail the thing.
I wanted to clarify my position here because I did a poor job of that in the live show. Refuse the PBT unless you've had absolutely no alcohol to drink. Refuse the field sobriety tests. The follow my finger, walk the line, and one leg stand, no matter what. And refuse the Intoxilyzer at the jail if you were very drunk when you were pulled over. If you were somewhere around the legal limit, 4 drinks in an hour, then you should be below the threshold once you get to the jail, and you should take the Intoxilyzer test. If you think you will be above the legal limit once you get to the jail, then refusal to take the Intoxilyzer will only help your case, particularly if it's your second offense or more.
A point he makes in some of his other videos, and this is something that that is available for anybody. You can get some sort of hardship licenses, and like I said, your other option is not getting in trouble if you've been drinking. It's
right. That's a good point to make.
There's no upside to it. So I mean, ideally, if you've been drinking, don't drive.
Right. If you've been drinking so much that you're going to fail the Intoxilyzer once you get to the jail an hour and a half later, then, you probably should be driving in the first place. But if you've had a few drinks, refuse all that stuff, man.
Yeah, just refuse it. This is stuff for a lawyer to take care of later on in court. Deal with the repercussions that night, go to jail, get bonded out in the morning. The whole point of all this is you're just not talking your way out of it. Cooperating with the police is not going to help you. They're not there to figure out what's happening. They're there to try to make an arrest or a citation. And anything you say to help their job is just going to hurt you in the long run.
Here's an interesting case. This was Mount Washington, which is right down the road from me, actually.
You've also stated that you calibrated the radar that you used on this day, correct?
Correct.
Did you bring any of that paperwork to show to the jury that you've calibrated this radar?
No.
The camera.
But if they were to believe your testimony that he was going 26
judge in
miles
there.
over the limit,
gotta get the reaction
really
shots.
Great acuity and attention to the road, right?
Correct.
Which would be difficult for an intoxicated person.
Correct. The road that he was on there is very straight, so not like he was on a very curvy road.
You also indicated that there was a third party who called in to dispatch with respect to Mr. Hall's vehicle, the Dodge pickup truck, right?
That's correct.
Did you bring that audio with you today?
I did not.
You did not have any body camera equipment on your person on that day, did you?
No, sir.
You did not have any video equipment in your vehicle either?
No, sir.
Are you in possession of video in the Sally port? After you arrested Mr.
I didn't even go to the Sally port, so no.
You didn't go? Where did you go?
I waited for the impound.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I forgot you were not the arresting officer. Okay. You have no equipment on your body and no equipment in the car for video recording purposes?
No.
So they arrested this guy for DUI. He refused all the tests, and he got a not guilty verdict. The frickin' police didn't have any video evidence of him acting drunk. You know what I mean? So apparently there's no body cameras they have in Mount Washington.
Yeah, it's almost as if, when you really get into this, it's almost as if most people that get arrested, it really is something that can be avoided in a lot of cases. And even in cases where it can't be avoided, the severity of the charges that are thrown on you, or certainly the charges that will stick, are drastically reduced if you just understand your rights, understand your Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate yourself, understand your Fourth Amendment right to not have unwarranted searches and seizures of your person and property, and exercise those rights. And apparently it goes a long way because most cops are incompetent idiots. So.
They have to prove that you were under the influence, under the law, while you were driving. And that means it's a subjective term.
And without you essentially admitting it,
right?
In many cases, they got you. It's kind of just their word. And one thing the DUI guy loves to point out is that they keep horrible records. When you eventually go to trial on this, it's going to be a year or more later.
So this is their website here for Kentucky. It's in Richmond, which is where I went to culinary art school, actually. It's right down the road. 20-week course. That's all they get. 20 weeks. Patrol procedures, physical training, and basically what it is you go to a police department and say, "Hey, I want to work for the police." They'll hire you if you qualify and all that stuff, and then you apply to the police academy for your 20-week training. 40 hours of that 20 weeks is just DUI training, and the DUI guy talks about this, but DUIs are like their big money maker now. They make most of their money. Me and you know, because we've been through it, right? The caps, it charges you out the ass, man.
Yeah, so that's DUI guy. If you listen to this, I really want to talk to you. This is one of the things I would love to talk about is the CAPS program.